Chemistry doesn't always feel warm. Sometimes it feels tight, restless, unsettling. And that's where the confusion begins. Before we go deeper, hit subscribe and like the video. This is DepthRealm, where we expose the patterns people don't want to face. Most people think chemistry is about romance, about connection, about alignment. But chemistry often begins as arousal, not affection. And arousal doesn't ask whether it comes from safety or threat. It just activates. For many women, that activation is misread. They say, "I feel something." They say, "There's a spark." They say, "I can't explain it." What they're often feeling is anxiety, not panic, not fear, but nervous system activation, the body preparing for uncertainty. The heart beats faster, attention sharpens, thoughts loop, and the mind labels it chemistry. This isn't foolishness. It's biology. The female nervous system is highly sensitive to relational cues, changes in tone, distance, ambiguity, unpredictability. These cues trigger arousal. Arousal feels alive, and alive feels meaningful. So the brain searches for a story to explain the sensation. That story becomes attraction. Here's the first truth most people never hear. The body doesn't distinguish between excitement and threat. It distinguishes between activation and calm. Activation feels intense. Calm feels flat. And intensity is often mistaken for depth. This is why stable relationships can feel boring at first. They don't trigger anxiety. They don't spike adrenaline. They don't keep the nervous system alert. But anxiety does. Anxiety keeps the system awake, focused, preoccupied. And preoccupation feels like desire. The brain says, if I'm thinking about him this much, it must mean something. But thinking is not choosing. And activation is not attraction. Here's how the confusion forms. Unpredictability creates anxiety. Anxiety creates arousal. Arousal creates focus. Focus creates perceived importance. So the man who is inconsistent, distant, or emotionally unavailable becomes mentally dominant. Not because he's better, but because he's uncertain. The nervous system orients toward uncertainty. That orientation feels magnetic. And magnetism is misread as chemistry. This is why calm men often feel invisible early on. They don't trigger the stress response. They don't activate vigilance. They don't create uncertainty. So the nervous system doesn't light up. And without activation, attraction feels absent. Not because the man is wrong, but because the nervous system is understimulated. Now let's talk about attachment. Many women grow up in environments where love was inconsistent. Affection came and went. Approval fluctuated. Attention was unpredictable. The nervous system learned to stay alert. Alertness became normal. So later in life, relationships that recreate that alertness feel familiar. Familiarity feels safe, even when it's painful. This is why anxiety feels like chemistry, because it matches an old pattern. The body says, "I know this feeling," and the mind says, "This must be attraction." But recognition is not compatibility. It's conditioning. This is also why women can feel nothing with men who treat them well. Good men regulate the nervous system. They reduce anxiety. They create predictability. Predictability calms arousal. Calm arousal feels like emptiness to a system trained on spikes. So the absence of anxiety is interpreted as lack of chemistry. And the presence of anxiety is interpreted as passion. This inversion causes endless confusion. Here's the part no one wants to admit. Anxiety is addictive. Because anxiety keeps the nervous system engaged, provides stimulation, provides meaning, provides movement. Even negative movement feels better than stillness to an activated system. This is why on and off relationships feel intense. Each reunion relieves anxiety. Each separation reactivates it. The relief feels euphoric. Euphoria is mistaken for love. But it's just the end of stress temporarily. The cycle repeats. Stress, relief, bonding. This is not romance. It's conditioning. Now let's look at the neurochemistry. Anxiety releases cortisol and adrenaline. Adrenaline heightens focus. Cortisol sharpens memory. So experiences during anxiety are encoded more deeply. Moments feel significant. Interactions feel charged. The brain remembers them vividly. Calm moments don't get the same imprint. So calm relationships feel forgettable even if they're healthy. This is why anxiety feels like chemistry. It hijacks memory. The nervous system says, "This matters." But it matters because it's stressful, not because it's aligned. Here's the tragedy. Women who confuse anxiety with chemistry often chase intensity instead of stability. They choose men who trigger, who withhold, who create uncertainty, because uncertainty feels alive. But over time, this choice extracts a cost. Anxiety wears the nervous system down. Hypervigilance becomes exhaustion. Excitement becomes dread. Passion becomes fear of loss. And yet leaving feels impossible. Because the body is bonded to the cycle. The relief phase feels like connection. The anxiety phase feels like longing. Longing feels romantic. But longing is just unfulfilled regulation. This is why logic fails in these situations. Friends say, "He's bad for you." The mind agrees. The body doesn't. Because the body is attached to the chemistry, and the chemistry is anxiety. Now here's the moment of clarity that changes everything. Real chemistry doesn't create anxiety. It creates expansion. It doesn't tighten the chest. It opens it. It doesn't cause obsession. It creates presence. It doesn't make you doubt yourself. It stabilizes you. But expansion feels unfamiliar to anxious systems. Unfamiliar is interpreted as dull. So women mislabel peace as boredom. And they walk away from what could grow. This is why the confusion persists. No one teaches nervous system literacy. People are taught to chase sparks, to trust butterflies, to follow intensity. No one says butterflies are often fear. No one says anxiety feels electric. No one says calm attraction builds slowly. And slow feels wrong in a fast world. Here's another layer. Modern dating amplifies anxiety. Texting delays. Read receipts. Ambiguous signals. Endless options. The nervous system is constantly triggered. So anxiety becomes baseline. And baseline anxiety feels normal. So when chemistry appears calm, it feels empty. This is why many women say, "I only feel chemistry with unavailable men," because unavailable men create anxiety. And anxiety has become the signal. This isn't preference. It's adaptation. Now let's talk about the long-term consequences. Anxiety-based chemistry cannot sustain intimacy. It burns hot, then collapses. The nervous system eventually demands rest. When it doesn't get it, it shuts down. This is when women feel numb, disconnected, emotionally exhausted. They say, "I don't feel anything anymore," because the system is fried. This is often when regret appears. Regret for the calm relationships they dismissed, the stable men they overlooked. But regret arrives late, after the nervous system recalibrates. Only then does peace feel attractive. Only then does calm register as depth. This is why timing matters. Attraction patterns change when the nervous system changes. But many women don't recognize this until years later. Now let's be clear. Anxiety doesn't mean the woman is broken. It means her nervous system learned to survive uncertainty. But survival patterns are not love patterns. They kept her safe once. They don't keep her fulfilled now. Healing doesn't remove attraction. It changes what triggers it. As the nervous system becomes regulated, anxiety loses its pull. What once felt electric now feels draining. What once felt boring now feels grounding. This shift confuses people. They say, "I've changed." They have. Their nervous system has learned peace. And peace finally feels safe. This is when true chemistry becomes possible. Not the chemistry of obsession, but the chemistry of alignment. Alignment doesn't spike. It resonates. It doesn't demand attention. It holds it gently. It doesn't destabilize. It integrates. But integration requires patience. And patience feels slow to an anxious system. This is why so many women sabotage healthy relationships early. They mistake calm for lack of attraction. They leave before depth has time to form. Depth takes repetition, safety, consistency. Anxiety forms instantly. Chemistry based on anxiety forms instantly. So the comparison is unfair. Fast always feels stronger than slow until slow builds roots. Here's the final truth. Women confuse anxiety with chemistry because the nervous system prioritizes activation over alignment. Activation feels intense. Alignment feels quiet. But quiet doesn't mean empty. It means stable. And stability is invisible until it's gone. Once a woman learns to tell the difference, her entire dating life changes. She stops chasing sparks that burn her. She stops mistaking stress for passion. She stops abandoning peace for intensity. She chooses partners who regulate, not destabilize. And the chemistry that emerges then isn't loud. It's durable. It doesn't demand attention. It holds it. It doesn't create fear. It creates trust. And trust is the deepest form of attraction there is. Once you see that, the illusion breaks. And you stop calling anxiety love. See the pattern. Protect your energy. This is DepthRealm.